There's a lot going on. Obviously, UFC 291 headlined by Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier, and what a win it was for Justin Gaethje. The head kick knockout. I saw the clips of the watch party. GC and Mike Heck going crazy. Everyone was going crazy. Didn't see that coming, especially a head kick knockout. Gaethje not known for throwing that, and he got it done in the second round. Alex Pereira defeating Jan Blachowicz via split decision. I scored it in favor of Pereira, gave him the second and third rounds. Derrick Lewis knocking out Marcos Rogerio de Lima in just 33 seconds with the flying knee. Unbelievable. And then announcing afterwards, after he took off his shorts, of course, and gave everyone the old DX crotch chop multiple times, tremendous form, I thought, that he's a free agent. So what's going to happen there? Bobby Green defeating Tony Ferguson via arm triangle choke in the third round. Tough scene for Ferguson. What's his future? Kevin Holland submitted Michael Chiesa via Darce in the first round. That was a very impressive win by Kevin Holland. Other big winners, Gabriel Bonfim, CJ Vergara, Roman Kopylov, Jake Matthews, Uros Medic, and Miranda Maverick. Obviously, on the other side of the equation in Las Vegas, Terrence Crawford putting on a virtuoso performance against Errol Spence Jr. He is now the undisputed champion at 147. First undisputed champion in the four-belt era at 147. He's now the WBC, the IBF, WBA, and WBO champion. He was just the WBO champion going into this fight. Now there is just one, and perhaps more impressive, first man in the four-belt era to be undisputed champion in two different weight classes. He was undisputed champion at super lightweight, which is 140, and now he became undisputed champion at 147. The only other fighter to do that is New York Rick's favorite fighter, Clarissa Shields, on the women's side of things. So massive, massive, massive accomplishment for Bud. I was honored to be there for Showtime and TNT Sports. And what a scene was, what a fight it was. Dropped him in the second, twice in the seventh, finished him in the ninth. Unbelievable stuff. As perfect of a performance as you can get. Maybe you give Spence the first round, maybe. But to see a guy at that level, 39-0 going into the fight, do that to Spence, who I had questions about after the accident and the eye injury, didn't seem like the same guy, and that's not taking anything away from Bud. It just seemed like Bud was on a different level. And now we wait and see if Spence will go and trigger the rematch clause, we presume, and what weight would it be at? There was some talk of 154. Would he want it to be at 154 or do it again at 147 to try to get his belts back? Golly, there's a lot to talk about. Who was the star of the weekend, New York Rick? What do you think?
I'm going to say Bud Crawford. Just because of the stakes, like the fact that now I think he becomes everybody's number one pound-for-pound fighter. I think that he won the weekend, but it'd be hard, like Justin Gaethje's performance, it'd be hard to compare UFC against Bud Crawford, right? Like I feel like of the two, it's not necessarily Gaethje on his own. It's more like the behemoth that is the UFC pay-per-view system right now. It is the train that keeps on rolling. So it might be like UFC versus Bud, but I'm gonna say if we're picking an individual, it has to be Bud. It has to be Terrence Crawford.
What do you think, GC?
Yeah, I guess if we're saying who won the weekend, I'll say Terrence Crawford just because of how good he looked against such a formidable opponent. Who was the star of the weekend, though? The answer to that question is Derrick Lewis. I mean, the knee heard around the world. If you are watching live, it was just one of the most incredible things. Just from him attempting a flying knee, then getting to see the replay, it landed flush, gets the finish. He was also like a plus 200 underdog. A lot of people were saying this man was cooked. This was like his bounce back. He really did have the six-pack. Puts him out, then takes the pants off, then jumps up on the cage, throws the gloves into the crowd. I mean, it was just a magical moment. Hit the Bobby Shmurda dance. It was fantastic.
By the way, you skipped right over the best part of the whole celebration, the DX crotch chop.
Oh yes, throwing this up. I mean, it just got better and better and better, and then like he killed the interview. And now I'm looking forward to see what Derrick Lewis does as a free agent. It was, to me, that was like the best moment of the night. Obviously, the Gaethje head kick was unbelievable. The performance from Crawford was unbelievable. But like what I found to be most entertaining, my star of the night was Derrick Lewis.
Yeah, it's funny with Lewis, like he's back to your point. People thought he was done, writing him off. Maybe this is going to be like a Ferguson situation where we're going to be sad on Monday and talk about, should he call it a career or go fight somewhere else? And then he has that amazing performance, and then he has that amazing celebration, and then he's great on the mic, and then he just drops the nugget that he's a free agent. And you're like, whoa, like his stock cannot be higher right now after a losing streak. And then you naturally think
Guy's
of
got a
the
six-pack.
six-pack. Yeah, he looked great all week. He actually legit had a six-pack. We thought he was kidding at media day. And then you naturally think of the Francis fight, and then you are reminded that they had one of the worst fights ever just a few years ago. But you're also reminded of the fact that he was supremely injured, Derrick was in that fight, and Francis was going through some mental stuff after the Stipe loss. That would be the biggest fight that the PFL could put on now. He's now the front runner, but I would be shocked if the UFC is like, yeah, okay, cool, Black Beast, like, we're happy for you to walk over there and fight Francis Ngannou and get your $2 million. No way are they going to do that. And by the way, Derrick, rightfully so, he said all the right things afterwards. Said, like, I'd love to be back. I love this place. That's the thing that you should say when you're there. But I'm curious to see how big of a push PFL will make, and how willing the UFC will be to just like lay on lay over and just like be like, yeah, cool, you could walk over to the other side of the street after we just built you for the last few years.
I mean, completely fair point. I do think Derrick Lewis has a lot of good leverage right now. Like because one of the things that keeps fighters in the UFC that wouldn't necessarily keep somebody like Derrick Lewis, in my opinion, is like the chase of a title, the like I'm still in my prime kind of thing, where it's like I want to be in the best organization in the world, where they have the top fighters fighting for the UFC gold. I think Derrick Lewis is in an advantageous position where he could come to PFL and be like, look, I know my career is kind of like winding down. I don't know if I'm going to climb back that mountain. You pay me one really nice payday, I'll fight Francis Ngannou. And I think you can sell that fight. I know the first fight was a stinker, but I think there's almost like a no way that happens again type feeling. Like these two knockout artists, if they get in there together, I feel like most people will like be able to erase that first fight and think that there's going to be fireworks. If you're somebody like Derrick Lewis, if they can make that price work on this fight, I think he's in good position to take it. I could see a world because
don't get me wrong. A lot of the fans of today probably didn't even watch that first fight. A lot of the fans of today probably don't even know that they fought each other. That's 1,000% the biggest fight that they can make. Of the people who could be available, my point is, and if I'm Derrick, I'm not getting $2 million from the UFC for a fight. There's no way they're offering him that. And then whomever he can fight afterwards in their pay-per-view super fight division. My point is, I just think the UFC will make it very hard for him to even look at that offer. Remember, this isn't pro basketball where it's like July 1st, you're a free agent, you could do whatever you want. There's a whole bunch of hurdles that have to.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Be over.
The bureaucratic
you know what I mean?
red tape
beyond. Yes. The matching clause and this and that.
If
all
we're
this
just talking
nonsense.
singular paydays, though, like somebody like Derrick Lewis, how many UFC fights could he realistically have left? Right? Like.
No,
maybe
business-wise, it makes all the sense in the world.
It makes a lot of sense to try to maximize the single payday here. And then, to be honest, like if PFL has a value for him beyond the Francis fight, if he beats Francis, it's the ceiling comes off his potential earnings. If he doesn't, there's still potentially valuable fights out there. Derrick Lewis will be one of the instant names that PFL could use that they wouldn't have been able to use previously. Financially, it feels like there's a lot of sense in this. It feels like there's a lot of sense in the potential Derrick Lewis versus Francis Ngannou fight for the PFL and for Lewis.
All due respect to Derrick Lewis, I don't want to bury the lead here. I agree with what you're saying, GC, but Justin Gaethje was, in my opinion, the star of 291, so let's give him his due.
Yeah.
Loses to Dustin Poirier 5 years ago in a tremendous fight. Wondering where he's at in his career. It's interesting. That fight, in many respects, represented a shift in the way in which he fought. He used to just be like this Tasmanian devil, this human car crash who would just go out there and throw caution to the wind, and it was kill or be killed. But he has noted since then he has become a much more measured and relaxed fighter. And his coach, Trevor Whitman, loves to say controlled chaos. So yes, you can be yourself, you can be chaotic, but you need to control it. You need to sort of like harness that chaos and not be so reckless because then you get hit and then you get knocked out. And so here we get to see the evolution of Justin Gaethje coming off a nice win over Rafael Fiziev. All right, Can he, implement that controlled chaos? Will the old Gaethje come out, meeting the old foe, the one who finished him back in 2018? And so I was very curious to see which version of him would show up. Poirier has looked very good as of late. Obviously, his only 2 losses in the last 7 years have been title fights to the champ, to Khabib, to Charles Oliveira. So, all right, let's see. Can he get back in the mix? We were talking about a potential Poirier title fight if he wins, a maybe Gaethje title fight if he wins as well. And first round, I thought it went to Poirier. 2 of the judges gave it to Dustin Poirier. Second round, though, obviously is when it ended. And as Dustin Poirier said, he set it up beautifully and he nailed him with that hit kick. And the similarities to the Leon one is just crazy. But it was shocking. It was shocking to see. I thought this fight wasn't going to go the distance. I was on the record saying that. I thought it would go into the championship rounds. I thought that they would, equal each other out maybe for the first 3 or so rounds. It would be a fun fight. And I thought Dustin Poirier was going to win. I'll be 100% honest. I thought he was going to win the fight. And so massive credit to Justin Gaethje here. And it does, in fact, seem as though he is in prime position to fight the winner of Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev on October 21st. We know that's happening. Volkanovski obviously has a say in the matter. I would say he has a better it's interesting. If Charles Oliveira wins, I would say Gaethje's chances of getting the fight maybe go down just a little bit because he has the loss to Oliveira. Of course, can't ignore the fact that Oliveira lost to Makhachev and he's getting the rematch. But if Makhachev wins, I think he has a much better chance of getting it. And perhaps if Makhachev wins, Volkanovski's chances go down. And maybe if Oliveira wins, his chances go up. You guys get what I'm saying here? In other words, do we think that was enough to get him the title shot? And then, of course, here comes Conor McGregor. Here comes Michael Chandler. Everyone's nipping at his heels. The Conor fight can't be ignored, but his situation is very complicated at the moment. And, of course, there's Chandler there, and we just had The Ultimate Fighter, which is about to wrap up, and who knows what the hell is going on and when he's going to fight again. It seems like he's in prime position. I can't think of anyone else who would be ahead of him right now at 155. So what do you guys think? How does this play out? New York Rick?
Sorry, I was a bit distracted there for a second. Start with GC.
What happened?
I mean, he's typing up a storm over here, man. I think he's doing some work on the side. I mean, you just said it. Like, who's going to be in front of him at 155? He was number 3 going into this fight. He head kicked Dustin Poirier, into the oblivion to move past him at number 2. Charles Oliveira is fighting Islam Makhachev in October, so. Let's say Islam wins. I mean, it's down to Volk and it's down to Gaethje. Gaethje coming off a highlight reel. I think the fashion in which he won is good for his case, especially coming off the Fiziev win as well. It's down to Gaethje and Volk, and I mean, I don't know, like who would Gaethje fight? Like, what does he need? Like, if there's one more. Then who's he getting in the octagon with? I feel like, especially at the stage of the career he's at, about to turn 35, I feel like he'll wait until he gets the title shot.
Yeah, I mean, he likes to take time off in between fights. So, waiting for the winner of that October fight isn't a big deal. I also think if you look at how they handled the last BMF champion, Jorge Masvidal, gave him a title shot, which kind of helped just sort of like erase that title. What someone told me long ago, his first name rhymes with Kale and his last name rhymes with Punnin. You don't want that BMF champ to defend the title because then you have to get into the pay-per-view points game. And so giving Justin Gaethje a title shot now after that kind of allows that BMF belt to sail off into the night.
It's not immediately going to be on the line as well. He's not going to bring the BMF belt to.
No,
to the
I mean Masvidal didn't
fights.
do it.
And
Well, that's why I thought Leon Edwards is the lineal BMF champion because Masvidal lost to
Yes.
Usman and then Leon
We need
beat
to
Usman.
we need to
but-
make the silver a homestay here. We need
No, we
this
don't. We
constantly.
need to get rid of it.
Maybe
all right?
move
We
it
need to get
around,
rid of
move it
now
around
and forever.
divisions.
I
I saw you hating, man. I mean, you were hating all week on the silver, bro.
I hate it. By the way, what's worse? People like campaigning to be the backup fighter, which is kind of quieted down, thank God, or people campaigning for a BMF title. Again, it is the stupidest thing. If I'm Islam Makhachev on this Monday, I'm like, what are all you talking about? I'm the baddest motherfucker in this division. I'm the guy. I climbed the ladder. I won the belt. What is all this BMF talk? And then to hear Bruce Buffer say it, and on a night where, a few thousand miles away, Terrence Crawford is legitimately making history for unifying all the belts in one of the best divisions in boxing, and the irony of the company that has been telling us for years that, oh no, we put on real fights and we don't water down our divisions and we don't water down our titles, and you just put this fake title on the line for what? It is so insulting.
Everything you just said, but who's got the belt that says BMF on it? Justin Gaethje. I mean, I don't make the rules. I follow what the belt says.
I'd be pissed.
Islam has come out before and been like, that's a Mickey Mouse belt. Like that's like
He's
nonsense.
Right, of course.
He doesn't care about it.
Why would he not?
So I don't think we're of much concern of like Islam campaigning to have the BMF belt on the line. I think, he has taken the stance that you have, Ariel. Like he thinks it's jokes. The other thing I was going to say in regard to Justin Gaethje is he's somebody who's been talking about like walking away from the game and like leaving and retiring for like years now. So I expect that he's got title shot firmly in his mind, and that's basically it.
Like, I mean, they threw out the Conor idea to him, and he's just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Like I feel like it's title shot.
A couple other shots in there too, right?
Yeah. I mean, that wasn't the only thing he said.
But by the way, he's been the one. Every time Conor's name comes up, he's been the one that kind of took that stance. Most people kind of try to play the game a little bit more, like that'd be a money fight. I'll dominate him. Justin Gaethje's been pretty staunch on like that guy's not a real fighter. I don't want to fight him, but I'll take the payday. So he didn't really change his stance now that the fight seems like it's actually possible. He's always kind of been pretty consistent with that. But yeah, he's not a fan of Conor McGregor.
One other credit I'll give to Justin Gaethje, I just have to say, as we're giving him all his flowers, the backflip is just such a feat, especially at his age now. I mean, he's almost 35 and he just does it.
Is it not terrifying?
He looks so athletic. Could you imagine hanging out with Justin Gaethje at the pool? Like, I feel like he's a beast in the pool, like doing backflips, doing all these crazy things off the diving board. I mean, the backflip, to climb up and do that and land it flush while dodging Poirier and Herb Dean, like that's how fast he did it. They were still on the ground. I mean, the backflip is a thing of beauty from Gaethje.
I had to look this up because I thought I remembered it, but he actually got suspended once in WSOF in Colorado because of the backflip, because they're afraid that he's going to land on somebody.
Yeah, he came close to Poirier and Herb Dean on Saturday.
Yeah.
Can't be good on the knees either.
The ankle too?
Everything.
Like I'm always so afraid of the impact.
Alexander Cayley of Missed Fists fame would better know this, but I believe there's been fighters who have like injured themselves in celebrations like that before. So
remember Terrence McKinney injuring himself?
Injuries.
I know it wasn't that, but like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
There was one recently,
Johnny Walker with the worm.
Yes, but we saw some. I saw it, I think, on Kaposa's feed. Like someone got injured in the first second, or was it when he was
running out of the octagon?
Stomping into the cage. Yeah.
Very Ben Davis-like in that regard. Not quite.
Shout out.
Ben. Yeah. Almost fell off the thingy. No, he's unbelievable. Better. Okay, so who has a better shot of fighting? Like, if you looked into your crystal ball, Conor McGregor's next fight, is it against Chandler? If I was to put out the Twitter poll or the X poll right now, is it Chandler, Gaethje, or none of the above?
None of the above.
Wow. He's not fighting anyone?
Feels like Chandler's dying
just not
for
any
it.
of those two people.
Gaethje
is Chandler fighting someone else? Is Chandler fighting someone else? Wow. Is it? Would you do
Conor
Chandler
McGregor
Gaethje
is
too?
clearly Conor McGregor is Gaethje waits for a title shot. Conor McGregor is clearly over fighting Michael Chandler. That's done. There's no interest from him anymore.
Why is that though?
He's made that very clear. Why?
What changed? Yeah,
it just cooled off. And also, like, there's people with bigger names and more money to be made than Michael Chandler.
It's cooled off. They did an entire tough season dedicated.
Yeah, what are you talking about? It's not even over.
Dedicated every Tuesday night the entire summer to this matchup.
That was actually months ago. At this point now, Conor McGregor's had 10 different things happen to him since. It's way in the rear view, clearly.
I feel like we got a decent amount of deleted tweets from Conor about the Gaethje thing, but he still got up the KO him one shot guarantee.
To the point that now even Michael Chandler is campaigning to fight Gaethje. Like, he realizes the Conor McGregor ride is over. So, yeah, I don't see a world where he fights Michael Chandler.
So weird. What's a bigger fight? Chandler McGregor or Gaethje McGregor?
Gaethje, just based on
Yeah.
He has
Really?
a BMF belt. He just knocked out Dustin Poirier.
Where he's at in his career, I mean, he's 25-4, and every one of his fights is just like fireworks, electric from
But
the
I think
jump.
Chandler's a more famous and popular fighter right now. No, after
Is he?
Tough, I think so. Chandler's got
After
a thing.
Tough,
He's got his
who's
podcast.
watching Tough other than
Listen,
GC
man.
and AK Lee?
At the end of the day, you put McGregor in there with either of them, it's doing insane numbers.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. It doesn't really matter. It's Conor McGregor
Yeah.
who's driving that
And
ship.
I think both fights would be awesome.
Michael Chandler
the-
lost momentum, 100%, and it's because he played it right every step of the way to this point. He appealed to Conor, right? Conor is the one you need to convince. It's not like, wow, think of this fantasy matchup between myself and Conor. He needed to get Conor to buy into the idea that he was fighting Michael Chandler. Conor bought in. Now it's weeks and months later, and Conor has not bought in anymore, and there's nothing he can do about it.
Okay, perhaps the more interesting question is, what does Dustin Poirier do? Because at the post-fight press conference, and obviously we're going to talk to him, he's not interested in some of these up-and-comers. You know, he's done his job in his career. He's fought everyone at this point. I mean, you look at his record, and it's just unbelievable. The resume, the names there. It's every single name who was available at 155. He also fought at 45. I don't know.
I have an answer.
I think I know what you're going to say.
It's the
The
one
guy fighting this
answer.
weekend?
No, this weekend.
Nate Diaz.
Oh, that's a fun fight. No, it's somebody with way more heat than that. It's Colby Covington. Dustin Poirier versus Colby Covington.
Stop.
Do the
What?
fight. It's the time.
At 170?
55. Yeah, at 170. 55. Look, Dustin Poirier had a great run at 55, one of the best 55ers ever. The title has eluded him. He held the interim strap. I'm good. I don't need to see him fighting 55ers anymore. Forget the weight cut. He's a huge 55er. Don't need him to cut any more weight to 55. Dustin Poirier, Colby Covington. The heat is 100% real. Look, if Colby Covington won the title, I don't even mind
that's
Dustin
the thing.
Poirier getting a title shot. I don't even mind it. Dustin Poirier debut at 170, title shot versus Colby Covington. And if you're Dustin, who kind of like poo-pooed that fight for a while, it seems like the prospects at 55 just got harder. 170 path to a title, do it. That's the fight. Now, it sucks for guys like Bilal Muhammad.
Yeah, dude.
Like, I feel for him.
I'm thinking this through here. Like, oh man.
But
Shove
Dustin
cut,
Poirier is
Wonder
sucks,
Boy.
it sucks for all of Wonder Boy.
I mean, Dustin Poirier coming off of a loss, making his debut at 170, getting a title shot. I understand the
Holland,
scenario you're
maybe?
breaking down, but like,
sorry,
Bilal sitting on
boys.
the sideline with 9 straight wins.
Okay, if
boys. It's the
if
biggest
Colby
fight.
loses to Leon, then it makes a
now
lot
we're
more
really
sense.
talking. That's
I'll
a
take-
beautiful
Well, I was
fight
going to say
there.
to you, are you just assuming that he's going to lose? Are you predicting a loss?
No.
Then it makes more sense. Dustin kind of, and I'll ask him this question, but like even at the post presser, I believe someone asked him about 170. He always is a little lukewarm. He says, "I walk around at 183. It's it's possible, but
Title
he's not
shot.
that big."
Title shot. Dustin,
Come on.
it's time.
By the way,
170 title shot.
I think-
Colby Covington.
I think Saturday's result is really interesting between Jake and Nate, because if Nate wins, he has all the power leverage in the world, and he's been very open about the fact that he wants to go back to the UFC. And I think we all sort of think that McGregor, we were just talking about McGregor's next fight, it could end up just being
Yep.
Diaz. If he loses a lot of that leverage and power and momentum and all that. If Conor just isn't available, if he's not coming back, whatever the case is, the next big fight is Poirier, right? Like this fight is legit, like 5-6 years in the making. They were supposed to fight at MSG, the back and forth. Who wouldn't sign up for Poirier Diaz?
It's perfect. Poirier Diaz at 170.
McGregor
Poirier
Paul?
beats, sure, whatever. Poirier beats
McGregor Paul.
Poirier beats Nate. Title shot. Colby Covington, assuming he
then it's-
wins. Title shot.
Then it's a little bit more, digestible in my opinion.
Poirier is one of the.
I'd love to see Poirier Diaz. I think would be tremendous.
I like the Poirier
I like
Diaz idea better because I mean, unfortunately for Dustin Poirier, like if he doesn't want to fight the up and comers, like 155 is full of the up and comers. I mean, Armin Sarukian, who else we got? Gamrot, Fazeev, like. That's where the up-and-comers are at, is 155, and he's fought all the top-end guys, obviously, through his career. So I like the Diaz idea. Like if he came back to the UFC and he's not fighting McGregor, Diaz Poirier would be a great fight.
All these options also help him avoid the shark take at 170, right? There's a lot of congestion at the top. There's a lot of guys who are kind of on the cusp and young and hungry. So yeah, you can skip all that. Do Diaz, Colby, man.
Poirier, Bilal, number one contender at 170.
If I'm Dustin, that's not it for me.
You think he'll take a Shavkat fight up at 170?
No, I don't want to do that.
He'll probably need some convincing, but I wouldn't hate the idea if his heart is into it. If his heart is not, then. But I wouldn't hate the idea of him versus Fiziev. I wouldn't hate the idea of a Dan Hooker fight. Just to get a win back on track after a loss like that. Obviously, he's going to take some time off.
Though? Like he's just going back into the mix at 155.
Dustin Poirier will always be like 1 or 2 wins away from being back in the title discussion. It's just a matter of how motivated he is to do that sort of thing. And at 170, maybe like a Kevin Holland, there's still money to be made if you're Dustin Poirier. There's still a business to be had. It's just he's very open about the fact that like if he doesn't feel it, they were talking about Beneil when Beneil was on the winning streak and he just wasn't feeling it. There needs to be something there.
Nope.
I could tell you who he would feel something with, and that would be Diaz. That's the one.
I'll tell you who else he feels something even more with, and that's Colby Covington. If I'm Dustin Poirier, as nobody's a bigger
actually think
Kevin
the Colby one is too personal. Is my fear.
What's a better reason to fight? What's a better reason to fight?
He doesn't like the family stuff and all that.
There was a time where Dustin said Colby's not going to make money off my back.
Yeah.
If Colby Covington wins the title, those roles are reversed. Now it's Dustin who could be using Colby Covington for fame and fortune.
Can I ask you a favor?
I love it. I don't like it. I love it.
When Dustin comes on, can I throw it to you?
Sure.
You ask him the question.
I'll pitch
so he
it
gets
to
mad
him.
at you and not me, because he'll definitely get mad at me if I ask him that question.
Dustin, I want you to make the most money you're going to make outside of a Conor McGregor fight. Here's how you're going to do it.
That's a good way of phrasing it. Okay, let's leave the main event for a moment. Let's go to the co-main. Do you guys agree? 29-28, Alex Pereira.
Yes.
I know Jan was upset. Jan said that he was robbed, thieves.
Yep.
29-28, right? Second and third rounds.
Easy call.
Yeah.
Jan ran out of gas. It is what it is. Like it was very obvious what happened in that fight.
Yeah, he got the takedown at the end of the third round, but he wasn't really able to do much with it. And I just felt like Alex was landing the harder shots throughout, especially rounds 2 and 3. I mean, obviously he didn't do much in round 1. So yeah, I think I feel pretty good about 29-28 Pereira. Though I guess at the same time, right? Had you said 29-28 Jan, I wouldn't have been like too upset with that either.
Yeah, but that would have been because you believe the judges are going to do that, not because you believe that that's the right card.
Right.
29-28 Pereira.
What a career is right. I mean, we could be talking about a title shot in a second division 10 fights into his MMA career.
And especially against a guy like Jan, who always beats the middleweights coming up, including Izzy, who has such a tough style. He goes in there, high altitude, and does that after losing the first round rather convincingly, right?
Oh, man, there were like potentially an argument to be made for like a 10-8. I mean, Jan immediately went for a takedown as soon as the round started and controlled it pretty much the rest of the way, and then to stuff the takedowns and get back to his feet in round 2. Get taken down and get back to his feet. Yeah, it was a super impressive performance by Alex Pereira to deal with that. That's
my big key, is that we saw Alex, look, there's deficiencies in the grappling. If you're going to compare his grappling and his striking, there's one place to go, right? You need to attack his grappling. But we saw that it may not be as easy as just touching him and him falling over into his guard. So it's a win for Alex Pereira, in my opinion. Like, he was in there with a real light heavyweight, showed that his defensive grappling was at least enough to get him through this fight and win the later rounds. And now he could be in title conversation. Also, it's impressive.
Subbing him is no easy task. I mean, Jan tried it the entire first round. I mean, he was in a bad spot for the latter half of that round, and Jan was going for chokes the entire time, was never able to lock anything up. So, yeah, to deal with the grappling like that. Now it's Yuri Pereira, no doubt.
I was thinking, who's Yuri Pereira? I thought that was like his name, because you went first name, last name. Rick said could be. I mean, what a gift from the heavens this is, because as we talked about, light heavyweight has been somewhat cursed since John left. Titles being vacated, draws, crazy injuries during basketball games, and now you get Yuri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira out of nowhere. Like, will there be one takedown attempt in that fight? And if so, I mean, if I'm Yuri, you probably try. But the thing is, like, those two strikers with their power and just how insanely strong and powerful they are, that has to be the fight, right? Like, could this please be the biggest no-brainer in the history of? I mean, I can assure you, someone's going to say Magomed Ankalaev.
Ankalaev just got booked this morning.
Are they related to Magomed?
Did he get booked this morning?
Yes, Johnny Walker,
maybe I was
294.
sleeping.
Perfect. Now that's cleared out of the way.
Yes, I mean, now there's no question.
Now we can focus.
What are we thinking? 296, Vegas.
When did this happen, by the way?
Early on this morning.
Johnny Walker 294 is what? What's 294? Is that NYC?
Abu Dhabi.
Oh yeah, perfect. All right. Well, now it's 100%. Okay. So then there's the next question. The next question is when it happens.
I think
UFC has sold out Sydney without a main event, which is an incredible feat. They're still not wanting to book Izzy and Sean Strickland, and
thankfully
someone needs to come out and explain that, because I'm hearing that there's I don't even know what's going on with that fight, but it seems like Izzy might be, odd man out, which is just a travesty in my opinion, because he deserves that fight. He deserves to fight close to home. If it's not going to be that fight, what are you doing? I don't even know what you're doing. And on 5 weeks' notice, on a card that you just sold out, they just sold out a card without a main event.
But isn't that
is there even a co-main?
Yeah,
is there a co-main even?
No.
What's the co-main?
No, right now they have two fights for the main card. The top of the card right now is Kai Kara France versus Manel Cobb, according to Tapology.
Wow. That is amazing.
We're a month out. Too.
So is the reason you bring that up, is that to say that Yuri versus Alex?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they're going to try anything at this point.
5 weeks.
But that's a quick turn. That's a quick turnaround
for
Alex.
It's not. I don't know what shape Yuri's in. For Alex, that's light work. Like that he's done that throughout his kickboxing
He just was
career.
getting mauled by freaking the bear Jambahovic.
He's getting a title shot too.
Not mauled, but he's like laying on top of him. Yeah, it's exhausting.
I think he'd want to
light heavyweight title.
Tuivasa Volkov main event.
Fucking hell.
Then it can't be a pay-per-view, right?
Oh, it's a pay-per-view.
I'm saying if you do that, you'd have to switch it. You'd have to not charge for that.
They wouldn't switch it. No, they're gonna figure something out. But that has to be the fight. I'm very curious to see what Yuri has to say about it. He'll be joining us in a few minutes.
It feels like at the end of the year, right? They've got the open slot in December, and they've got the co-main for November. I guess it would just be like wherever Covington.
Yeah, and I don't think they're putting a title shot under. They might put a vacant title shot under Jones, because there's no pay-per-view points
there you go.
involved there. So
December for Colby and Leon, November for Yuri and Alex. Done, booked. And then Sydney, and then God bless whatever happens in Sydney.
Sydney gets Pantoja.
I'm okay with it.
That'll almost be 2 years, by the way, since Colby's last fight. If he fights in December, 2 years would be March of next year. Tony Ferguson, does he fight again in the UFC?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes, but I
say no.
I hope.
Oh, really?
Not. I mean, watching him having
no.
by his decision or theirs?
I think theirs.
They say no mas. Just thank you for your service.
It's just been a lot of losses. They're tough to stomach at this point.
I know he's probably got a higher price tag than some of the replacement talent, but like there's still probably something like Patty versus Tony has been talked about. Isn't that a good way to like kind of get Patty over?
It has? By who?
Yeah, a lot of people are clamoring for that on Twitter.
Oh, clamoring, but it's not a thing that they've talked about it.
No. I'm saying like the fan sentiment seems to think that that's like a fair-ish matchup. I don't think so.
Someone throw out Tony Ferguson, Jim Miller, UFC 300.
I think Bobby Green wants that fight.
Oh,
but if Tony wanted it, I think Tony would get it. No. I feel like there's still one more in there that like, but at the end of the day, ultimately it's kind of like Tony on the B side of those. So I don't know if that
Here's
price
the thing.
tag
Tony
is
has not been the easiest guy to deal with,
Yeah.
and I just think that like, what is it, 6 losses in a row now?
yeah.
And they're hard. And I know I feel for him. The eye poke is actually doing pretty well before that. It's just a tough spot. I think it's a tough spot. I would not be surprised if that was the end. And by the way, this is like from the heart. This is not with any insider information, but it's tough. 6 losses in a row, and some of them he's taking an incredible amount of damage. Michael Chiesa was also tough to watch. Just the performance wasn't there.
Yep.
You'd like to give him a mulligan only because the guy he's fighting is just getting better with age, and he's not that old. He's just 30. Kevin Holland, he's really coming into his own. And the 2-year layoff is a real thing at Chiesa's age. But the submission was somewhat surprising. I know he's been submitted by that twice before going into Saturday. But that was a tough performance
Yeah,
for
he just
Michael
didn't
Chiesa,
look.
in my opinion.
He didn't look comfortable on his feet from jump. Like he just did not
Right.
look like he wanted to fight Kevin Holland in that capacity.
And how about this depressing news that I just saw? Pee Wee Herman, aka Paul Reubens, has died.
Yeah.
Oh
Just
my
talking about
God!
that pre-show.
I used to watch Pee Wee's Playhouse and then Pee Wee's Big Adventure and Big Top Pee Wee. Last night we said farewell to Paul Reubens. This is from his official Facebook page. An iconic American actor, comedian, writer, and producer whose beloved character Pee Wee Herman delighted generations of children and adults with his positivity, whimsy, and belief in the importance of kindness. Paul bravely and privately fought cancer for years with his trademark tenacity and wit. A gifted and prolific talent, he will forever live in the comedy pantheon and in our hearts as a treasured friend and man of remarkable character and generosity of spirit. Oh, that is such a bummer. I used to watch his show all the time. Francis, what an absolute legend. May you rest in peace. That is very sad news to read on this Monday. But I do have a funny story for all of you from my evening on Saturday. So obviously it was a busy one doing the Showtime stuff. It was great to work with Luke Thomas and Kate Abdo. I enjoyed it tremendously. We got to do the prelims. And then the moment the prelims were done, I got to work on the main card in a different kind of role. I was the roving reporter. So we were grabbing luminaries who were in attendance. Sugar Hill Stewart, who's the head trainer for Tyson Fury, was a little lukewarm on the Francis Ngannou fight. Of course, I'm talking about Saturday's boxing event, mega event at T-Mobile Arena. And who else did we talk to? Badu Jack, shout out. Ebony Bridges, Richie Woodall. So we talked to a few people. There were so many celebrities there, but they were all the way on the other side, so we couldn't get them to come over. And then the thing was, when the winner was crowned, so to speak, we were allowed to go to the ring, and we were allowed to interview the winner, but not in the ring. That's just Showtime's role and their spot. So I was allowed to be like on the outside. If you've ever seen British boxing, European boxing, you're on the outside, but not quite in the ring. And so I'm there climbing up the stairs, holding on to like the ring post. Eminem's there, Lil Wayne's there, James Harden's there, Russell Westbrook's there, Damian Lillard's there. I mean, it's a who's who. And we're supposed to talk to Bud after he talks to Jim Gray, but there was a whole commotion and there's like 1,000 people in the ring. That's one thing that I wish they would do more like the UFC, less people in the cage or ring after a big win. And he went out the other way and we didn't get him. So then his team tells us you could go to the locker room and try to get him. Now, the locker room and the route to the locker room is a whole mess of a situation. There's so many people. It's like a total shit show. It's just chaos, right? It's chaos as you expect it to be. One nice byproduct of this, finally getting to meet Damian Lillard in person, comes up. You know, we do the thing. What is it called? The what are we talking about? What is this thing called? That we dap it up. We do this, that, and like bang, bang.
It's
we
always
do the
good when you ask
G-lock.
what's it called, you know?
Yeah, it was great. He's like, pleasure to finally meet you. I was like, man, Dame Dollar up in this shit. I mean, it was incredible. Everyone's there. Stephen A's in the house. Say what's up to my man Stephen A. Say hello. Joe Joyce is in the house. And then I'm waiting outside the locker room. And I'm waiting. I mean, it was a long time. Then we find out that the camera doesn't go that far and the microphone won't work. We have to get a new microphone. And then when we forget the mic flag, we have to get the mic flag. Then I get to go in the locker room. And I'm waiting, and now I feel like, how the hell did I end up here? How am I in the locker room? How am I there? Bud's draped in all the belts, and Shakur Stevenson is there, and Clarissa Shields is there, and his whole family is there, and his team is there, and everyone's there. And they're all taking pictures, and it's like, bring in the kids, and bring in the family, and bring in the teammates. And then it's like, bring in Ariel. And to his credit, you know, friend of the program, been on a couple times, did the interview. I don't think he was in the interview mode, so to speak. I do have one regret from the interview. I maybe didn't phrase my question well enough, and he misunderstood what I was saying about which distinction, which honor, which achievement meant more, being a two division champion or being the first undisputed in the 4-belt era at 147. He thought I was comparing it to Clarissa. That's not what I was doing. But nevertheless, good to get him and all good. So I get it, and then I'm like, all right, I'm out of here. Like, I should not really be here. I feel like I made a left turn into some crazy post-fight celebration. This guy comes up to me and he's wearing a hat with a number 3 on it. And he's like, yo, man, I'm a big fan. And I was like, oh, cool. He's like, let me take a selfie with you. And I was like, okay, cool. Now, I think it's Chance the Rapper because I know he always wears the hat with the 3. And, I like his stuff, but I'm like, why would Chance the Rapper say this? And why would he want a selfie with me? So just to be safe, I'm like, can I get one with you too? I never asked for selfies. I just felt like I should. If he's that big of a star and he's asking me, then maybe I should ask him. So I get the selfie, send it to the Parlay boys. I was like, do you guys know who this is? Now, they thought I just never heard of Chance the Rapper and were mocking me, but I just wanted to make sure that it was who I thought it was. And so they're like, yes, it's Chance the Rapper. Wow, crazy. Chance the Rapper. I mean, Justin Bieber songs, all this stuff. Cool. He's a big star. The next day, as I'm sitting in the airport for, 16 hours or whatever it was, hellacious day. I'm not going to complain. I'm not one of those. But, you get. I'm trying to find things to do to amuse me. So I post, great to take a picture with a fan. Always nice to, give back to the fans whatever I wrote. And it was just me and Chance, and everyone recognized it. Some got the joke, some didn't. But, he's very recognizable. The second time, and that's it. Now I'm on my way. I'm trying to get home. The second time that we have to deboard the plane because it overheated, I'm waiting around in the terminal. And who's there? Chance the freaking Rapper. What are the chances that Chance the Rapper is there? And so I'm like, oh my God, there's the hat. Cool. Like, let me go sit. Now we're boys. He's a fan. Maybe he wants to take another selfie. So I walk up to him. I was like, yo, Chance, what's up? I wouldn't expect him to be in the McCarran Airport or whatever it's called now, Harry Reid. I was like, what's up, man? Dap him up, fist pump, all that. Is it a fist bump or pump?
Bump. Yep.
Bump. And he's like, yo, man. He's like, you did me dirty with the picture. You said I was a fan. I was like, oh, shit. I didn't think you would see that. Definitely didn't expect to see you again. He's like, and I'm like, no, I was just kidding. And then I actually had a good retort. I was like, no, because I saw you post like a carousel gallery thingy on Instagram of all the people you met, and I didn't make the cut. So I was like, man, I didn't make the cut, then you're just a fan. And he's like, nah, it's all good. And he told me he was trying to get to Napa for a show, and he was thinking of driving there because his flight got delayed. And I was like, well, I'll leave you to a chance, but, much love. Thanks for being a fan. But what are the chances that after my little sly joke of taking a picture with a fan, 12 hours later, I would see him in the airport and he would call me out on it? He doesn't even follow me.
Moment. It just speaks to how big a fan of you he really is. But I will say, you're also doing your homework, checking his content and seeing that you're not in there. I can appreciate that. I like the way you played that one. I like.
Yeah, you also teed it up to us. You were like, "Who is this?" And I thought you were completely joking.
No, no. I wanted to just confirm. The three hat.
Yeah,
the three hat is iconic. I just wanted to confirm. By the way, speaking of Seinfeld, I saw Seinfeld on Friday with our good friend John Beer at the
JB.
Shout out to our good friends over at ppv.com. They invited us, and they've got a great service. They're the evolution of In Demand, and I got to meet a lot of the great people over there, and they're doing great things because now you can stream all these pay-per-views, including Paul and Diaz. So, In Demand used to be all the cable companies. They still are, DirecTV, but now you can get it on devices, phones, tablets, chats, all this. This is just me talking about them.
I like that tagline, the evolution of In Demand. I literally went to their website. I wanted to see if it was their slogan or not.
Is it?
It's not. No, it's not. They're home for pay-per-view events. But the evolution of In Demand is nice.
I met their EVP, Michael Berman, and he told me, I was like, man, where'd you guys get that URL? Like, that's a great URL, ppv.com. Like, that's just as clean as it gets.
X.com.
One notch above. Anyway, he told me he bought it like 15 years ago and just kept it in his back pocket. And now look at how it's, paying off, coming to fruition. As
kept it in his back pocket and didn't immediately act on having it?
No, because 15 years ago, that wasn't really a thing.
It's amazing.
But that's foresight right there, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, we went to Seinfeld. I was there with a bunch of the boxing media, Chris Algieri, Dan Canobio, all those good guys. I do have one sad thing to report. It was good, and someone told me it was predominantly new material, but here's my sad thing to report.
Uh-oh.
The show started at 9, I think, or maybe it was 8, but he came on after the opening act. It was solid. I fell asleep for a little bit. And I was so excited.
Oh, my Lord.
That is ridiculous, man.
I was so excited. I was so
Are you
tired,
actually 75 years old?
Yes,
and
what
you're
is
just
that,
not
dude?
telling us?
What is that, man?
I fell asleep. I was so tired.
Was it too warm in the theater?
What time? Give me the time.
It was probably like 9:30
Oh,
Pacific. Now
Lord
we're
almighty.
talking
But
12:30
still,
Eastern.
dude, you're sitting in public, like in a theater, and like if someone looks over and they just see you, just like
Okay,
I
here's a
pray
very-
at some point in Dallas you fall asleep in public.
Here's a very
Oh my
important
God.
question. Do you
Yes.
snore?
Yes, according to my wife, I do, and my daughter.
No, this is horrendous.
Now, am I snoring in these public,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
10-minute cat naps?
You fall asleep.
I
in
don't
the-
know about that. That would be bad. Could you imagine?
That'd be very bad.
God.
Remember,
That
I was
would
saying
be-
how my wife came with me and fell asleep during.
Yeah,
forget one of the
I mean,
movies.
she's pregnant too, so she
She is a
gets pass.
very loud snorer. So like I
Oh,
was kind of like waking her up every 5 minutes to try and make sure that she wasn't snoring and waking up.
Oh,
Seinfeld
my
thinks you're
gosh.
heckling him because
Yeah.
he starts snoring in the
Oh.
crowd, and then you just have a
I felt like he was
rivalry.
working through material too. There was a couple of like, starting, and then let me get back to that, which was a bit surprising, but it was a great treat to see him. Who am I to
Yeah,
critique?
for the part that you were awake for sure.
What is it like when you come to during this live Jerry Seinfeld set? And you're just like, oh shit! Like I definitely fell asleep.
Yeah,
there.
the problem was it is literally during the day. It is like 115 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's what I'm hearing.
It is
yeah.
next level. It is next level. And then you go inside,
Dry heat
and then
though,
it's
right, Frank?
freezing. Yeah, it's a dry heat.
You know
and then
what
it's
would make
freezing
my
inside.
life? You know what would make my life? If in
What's
the
that?
you say he's working through it, if in the subsequent shows he talks about the dude who fell asleep in his set.
Nah.
and
What's
makes
the
a
deal
joke
with
out of
people
it.
falling asleep?
Oh, that would just
The
be
first thing he
incredible.
talked
Not
about,
that
by the
there's
way, the
anything
first thing he
wrong with
talked
that.
about was the weather. The first thing he talked about was the weather. It was classic.
on
It
brand.
was like,
on brand.
Classic. Yeah.
No, but it was great. He's like, everyone's like, "What's up with the weather?" He's like, "Okay, it's the weather. It's like, it's gonna happen. Like, could you believe?" He said this thing like, "Could you believe the weather?" It's like, "Yes, I could believe it. It's the same thing all the time." It was so class. It was great.
And
It
then
was
that
great.
guy
It
in the
was-
fifth row snoring. Ugh.
it was- yeah.